going to go ahead and call the Freeman School Board October 20th, 2021 meeting to order. First, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to roll call.
Slade?
Present.
Emily?
Yes.
Cody?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yep.
Additions to the agenda?
We had a couple additions. We have in the consent agenda, we moved C, B, and E down and added a new C for the contract of Taylor Bowder, paraprofessional for the 2021-2022 school year. That was a position that we had open previously that we were able to fill. And under the new business, we slid them all down, added a new number 4, and just added a presentation about the Good News Club.
Excellent. We will require a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion by Cody,
Second.
second by Slade. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Conflict of interest disclosures. I have not received any conflict of interest disclosures from anyone. Next, for public input. Any public input?
No, we're not recording.
Wonderful. Moving right along. For the consent agenda, we'll require a motion to approve the following: the minutes of the regularly scheduled school board meeting of September 13th, 2021, the minutes of the Cornwall Cooperative Board of Advisors meeting of September 15th, 2021, the contract of Taylor Bowden paraprofessional for the 2021-2022 school year, changes made to the 2021-2022 junior senior high school student handbook, financial reports, and claims for October. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Slade,
Second.
second by Doug. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we'll have the administrative report.
I handed it out already. So some successes we had, we survived homecoming, so big thanks to everybody who helped make that week successful. Juniors and seniors have been utilizing their open campus respectfully, that's been good. Quarter 1 is complete. I attended a PLD meeting in October. My mentor is Mr. Eric Norton, he is the principal in Parkston. Today, we had 2 new students, so that was good. They'll be starting sometime next week. And then under testing and surveys, the National Career Readiness Certificate, we had 15 students complete that test, and 100% of those students received some sort of certificate ranging from the platinum to the bronze, so platinum being the highest, and then bronze being the first level that you can get, and you can have like a no certificate, so that was good that all of them received something. We did the ASVAB testing, 19 students took the ASVAB. The recruiter was really impressed with the scores here in Freeman. ACT, we offered this for the first time here at the school on Tuesday. Students took that successfully here in the library. We had 7 seniors and 9 juniors testing. We're going to offer that again in the spring. This time it was paper pencil, just due to timeline. Next time it will be digital. We are wrapping up our NWA testing. We have a staff training on Friday that will be understanding and applying the reports of those scores, so we'll be doing that with staff. And then we did start Success Hour, and we've been doing working lunch for a little bit longer than that. So Success Hour is after school from 3:45 to 4:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Any student can stay to get help. There's always a staff member in here to help them. And then anybody that's on the ICU list is encouraged to stay during those days. And then for the working lunch, any student who's been on that list for more than a week is expected to attend working lunch, so it's during that 5th period. They can come the whole time, or they are expected to be here during their lunch. They bring their lunch to the library, they eat, and they work at the same time. And students can choose to come in here as a means of support too. Most don't voluntarily choose that time, but once it gets to be a week overdue, then they're expected to come in here, and I feel like that's been going well. When we look at that ICU list, just a couple of things. Most, the data so far on the ICU list is our middle school students are the ones who struggle the most at getting their assignments in. That's kind of the bulk of our students on that list at this point, but which makes sense. They're learning how to manage time. and work, so that's been good. That's all I have.
Wonderful, thanks Katie. Right, superintendent report.
A little while back, I had a conversation with Slade about some of the trees that we had on the school grounds that were dead or dying. So a while back, I reached out to Edwards Tree Service, and I included this in one of my weekly updates a while back, and they had some health issues and were not working, at least not working at 100% at that point in time. They're at that point now where they are able to get some work done, and they have submitted a quote for me, and I asked them to go around the school grounds and just count up the number of trees. So they counted up that we have 20 dead or dying trees on our school grounds. And then they also counted up that we have an additional 13 stumps that are currently still located on school grounds. So counting the 23 that they would be cutting down, and then adding the 13 additional stumps to that, they've given us a quote for that. That quote would be for bringing in all the black dirt and seeding on top of that as well. So we've accepted that quote, and we'll be having them perform that as soon as they can. So they're teaming up with Chris Seiler, and he'll be doing the stump grinding and hauling the dirt in. So it'd be nice to have that taken care of and get those trees that are kind of eyesores around our school grounds, get those removed and the stumps grown. Junior high athletics pitchers, Cody had mentioned that he had a community member that had reached out and just inquired about junior high pitchers, and so I looked into that a little bit and discovered that we've taken junior high pitchers for the yearbook, and that's posted in the yearbook, but we haven't had the formal pitcher that's taken. So I reached out to Waltner Media, asked them if they would be interested in taking pitchers for junior high as well as our varsity sports. So the only thing we'll be adding would be the junior high portion of it. It's not anything parents have to do, but it is a nice convenience thing for parents, and I think it's, personally, having gone to a lot of graduation open houses, that's a really neat thing to do at a graduation open house, to go look at their progression through activities throughout their high school career. So nice memento. So we'll be starting that in the winter season. The fall season is done, so being able to coordinate that and get that all put together, we will not have that for this past fall, but we'll be starting that from now moving forward, starting with our winter activities this year. Title IX has got some new requirements and policy changes that we're required to make. We have an exciting partnership with this one that we're teaming up with Freeman Academy. Christy Sage and I met with Jill Holfer from Freeman Academy, discuss ways that we can help each other out and how we can make sure that our policy meets the requirements to be in compliance with Title IX, and then also any other ways that we can partner to help each other out with the Title IX requirements. What we've landed on right now, we just had one meeting, but they've shared with us their policy, and we'll be looking into that policy, and maybe looking at our current policy that is posted on our website, and seeing what kind of changes we need to make for adaptations for that. But then also with those new requirements, one of them would be that we have to assign roles, and we have to have a committee. Example of those roles would be that we would have a coordinator. What we discussed at the meeting could be that, and this is all just hypothetical, but it could be for that coordinator, it could be the activities director. We have to have an investigator. That investigator could be the partnership idea here. That investigator could be a representative from the other district. So they would have a representative or an investigator, we would have an investigator. If we did have a Title IX issue that presented itself, we could call on the other district, and they can come in. It needs to be a neutral party, somebody who's not connected in any way, shape or form to that complaint. So that would help us out, even though we're a small community and close-knit community. There's still a higher likelihood that there wouldn't be those ties, but somebody from Academy coming over to Public or Public going over to Academy. So that would be the real way that we would partner here. Decision maker, we're leaning towards that would, a good example of that would be our principals. Appellant decision maker would then be potentially a school board member, and then the informal resolution coordinator could be the superintendent. Like I said, with all this brainstorming ideas that we had from that first meeting, but wanted to update the board that we are looking into having a partnership with Academy to make sure our policies are meeting the state's requirements or the federal requirements, and it's gonna be fun to work with them. Valley Electric, I talked to Ryan Sorensen. He is looking at coming in. He is partnered with another electrical company. The manpower that's needed to replace the lights in the gymnasium, and the time frame that we have available in our gymnasiums is not real high. So he's gonna partner with another electrical company, and they're gonna come in next Thursday and Friday, and they're gonna try to knock out all of the lights in the main gymnasium. So I coordinated with Christy, and we have a nice little window of opportunity there. We'll have to adjust some practices potentially, but that's about as good a time as any for us to get the lighting in the gym done before we get to that really busy winter season in that gym. Our kiln at the junior senior high school has stopped working. Ryan's been in the building lately, so I didn't take a peek at it, and he thinks it's a bad electrical box. So in the future weeks here, I'll be doing some price comparisons for what that electrical box, if we can even get a new electrical box, and parts for that could be, and also pricing out and comparing that to the price of what a new kiln would be. So it's something that's important for our art program, and something we're gonna have to look at replacing eventually, but that's something I'll be looking into in the weeks to come. We've received our state aid fall enrollment, or SAFE numbers, back from the Department of Education. They are reporting right now that we are at a fall enrollment number for 2021 of 382 students, 382.07 students. So that's looking very good in comparison to past years. We're gonna dive into that and make sure that on our end, make sure that number is accurate, and we'll report back to the state whether it is or is not, and solidify what that number is, and then I'll report back this year's numbers in comparisons to past year's numbers at the next board meeting. That's all I have.
Great. Any unfinished business? We'll move on to new business. An update will be provided by the task force committee.
Is this even on?
There's no mic
Okay,
there.
well,
Just use your outside voice.
Okay.
Close.
all right. Okay, so I'm Becca Schultz, and I'm gonna be starting off this presentation. Last year, it became clear that the people in the Freeman community wanted transparency regarding potential discussions for sports cooperatives or consolidations. Members of the current school board asked various members of the community, as well as the school, in order to be involved with a special task force. Members included Emily Anderson, Doug McCune, Jill Onenson, Sheila Whip, Christina Sage, Chris Seiler, Jake Teege, students Lily Whip, and Zach Seiler, and myself. Goals set forth for the task force included: explore the potential of sports cooperatives or consolidations, identify a way to gather public information about potential sports cooperatives or consolidations, allow students to be involved and have their opinions taken into consideration, and find a way to have data-driven input into making our recommendation. So I'd like to share with you how we came about processing and gathering this information. We had 4 meetings this fall, the first of which started in August, and the last of which was this month. Each meeting had a new focus in order to meet our goals. First, our committee discussed community and district needs. Upon consideration of various ways to gather input, we felt giving the community and students autonomy with their thoughts and concerns was very important. It was determined that a survey with multiple methods of administration was the best opportunity to reach a wide group of people. Questions that were easy to understand and succinct were developed. It was also important for the task force to administer the survey and collect results in a timely manner so that the school board would have enough time to consider our recommendations. Next, our committee moved forward with the survey. Mailings were delivered to all taxpayers in the Freeman district and those with students in the school district. Students were also administered the survey in school. Not only was there the option to mail the survey back to the school, but local businesses and the school itself offered physical drop-off locations. The school was also willing to offer additional paper surveys and online surveys if there was an additional taxpayer in the household. There was the option to do the survey online as well. It is our sincere belief that both the community and students had the opportunity to be heard. So with that, I would like to invite Jill Onenson and Lily Whip to discuss the results of our survey.
Thanks, Becca. Yep. So, yes, I'm going to show you some of the results of this survey, and I know that you have some packets probably in front of you, but I kind of prefer pictures. And I have copies of these pictures, so I'll give you guys after I'm done talking about them as well. So, important to understand that we did have this 4-question survey distributed to taxpayers, also distributed to students. Among taxpayers, we had 336 respondents, which represents about 20% of the base. And among students, about 83 responses focused on grades 8 through 11, students who will be high school athletes next year. And 83 responses, and of course that's much closer to the 100% level in terms of response, because they did it right here in school. So the first question that we submitted to individuals was, would you like the Freeman Public School District to discuss potential sports cooperatives with other schools? And you can see the response from taxpayers was a resounding yes. Students, a little bit more toward that 50-50, we do have a positive yes on the student response. But the students are a little bit more wary, and of course Lily is gonna, after I present all the results to you, Lily's gonna speak to some of what she imagines might be those reasons. There we go. Technology, right side. Question number 2, would you support a sports cooperative that may lead to a school consolidation? We had a little shift in the response on the adult side, on the taxpayer side, but still a strong yes response, a 3% difference. And so if we're talking about 300 responses, that's 9 people, right? And so we have 9 people who were okay with thinking about a sports cooperative, maybe we're a little less okay thinking about a school consolidation. The student response shifted a little bit more here to a little bit more strongly to the no from the students. And again, Lily will speak to that shortly. Question number 3 was, would you like the Freeman Public School District to discuss potential school consolidation with area schools? No surprise here, the taxpayer response is essentially exactly the same. Apparently, that 18% is just not interested in school consolidation, but again, still a really strong yes response. And then the student response shifted even a little bit more strongly for the no, just in the context of just thinking about specifically school consolidation. And then finally, the final question is, would you support a sports cooperative if it moved our sports teams from Class B to Class A? Essentially the same response, again, from the taxpayers, a strong that they would be fine with changing classifications for athletics. And then the students kind of shift back again into that 50%. When we're just talking about sports cooperatives, the students are kind of resting right on that 50% line. So I'm gonna let Lily speak a little bit about what she's thinking in terms of maybe why this is happening, and then we'll come back and close things out.
Go back to the top.
Okay, so as you can see, when we talk about just the cooperative, it's more 50-50. Like with the students, it's a little bit more towards yes. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about, like, that we asked 8th through 11th graders, and right now we have a lot of 8, 9, 10, even 10th graders like playing on varsity, when if we maybe had more students, more athletes, that wouldn't be the case. But I mean, looking at our situation in some of our sports teams right now, that 8 and 9 especially, that kind of makes a difference in their thinking, like if we had more kids playing, I might not get that varsity time. I think that kind of goes into that a little bit. And then when we move on to consolidation. Okay, and then so consolidation, it gets a little more split towards the no. And I think consolidation is a really scary word, especially in a small school, because we really value, especially, like I know myself, I really value my class. I mean, it's basically our second family, we all say that. And to think about having another school, having 10, 15 more students just come in, that's a very scary idea for students, and it's just a very personal thing. Sports teams, classes, especially in a small school, it's very personal. And that shows in these stats. They're not seeing, students, we're not seeing the overall perspective of our school, our community, right now and in the future. So this, looking at the students, it's just very personal, you have to think about that we're just kind of my situation, my class, my team. And then you can see that again here too. Just consolidation is definitely where it leans more towards the no, because again, it's very scary, and rightfully so. It's different. I mean, you don't want a bunch of new kids. It's just a little scary, but changes need to be made, I think, and it's okay to experience and to just dig into those and see if there's more positives at the end. And moving on back to consolidation, it's closer to 50-50 again. So students are kind of on the edge, but yeah, it's nothing that I think sways, because parents and adults, they have the better perspective, better view overall for right now and for what we have to come. So.
Great, absolutely, really good perspectives, I think. And it's funny, Becca, in preparation for our presentations tonight, Becca went back through our notes of all of our meetings, and one of Lily's first comments in the very first meeting that we sat down was, students are about 50-50 on sports cooperatives. And so we kind of, she had this sense that that's kind of where it was gonna land, and then of course the data bear that out. So yeah, I mean, we're willing to answer any questions. I think it's clear from these data that there's a strong positive response from the community toward considering any and all of the opportunities that might be available to the school district, with not much concern about what kind of an impact that might have on classification of the sports teams. And so we just feel like this is a pretty strong response. It tells you as a school board a story, and then I think the other story it really tells us is it's going to be really important and incumbent on the school board to make sure that the students continue to be involved in the process, so that, I mean, one of Becca's first words that she used was transparency. And so that transparency needs to exist across not just our taxpayer platform. Of course, they're the constituency that voted for you all to be here, and the one that we're concerned about. But of course, we really need to make sure that we're listening to our students, and we're helping educate them and helping make sure that they understand what that means. And that, like Lily said, that it's not necessarily scary, and change is good, but when you have to think about change and you're 13 to 17 years old, how change impacts me is I want to know what's happening to me today and tomorrow, and then that everything else is kind of off the radar, right? So I think was a really strong response. 20%, of course, was you'd love to have more than that, but that sounds like an average general election around here. So that's, I think the people who care very much are the ones from whom we've heard. So any questions for any of the three of us, or of course we've got some other task force members sitting here in the room as well.
Any questions?
And I like pictures, so I make all copies of pictures. Because I know that in your package you've got the raw numbers, but then you can have these to refer to as well.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Becca. Thanks, Lily. That was all great information. I would like to discuss, clearly from the results that they outlined to us for the public in general, it looks like they're interested in pursuing, or at least getting more information about, what a potential sports cooperative would look like, or potential school consolidation. Would love to kind of discuss other opinions as far as moving forward. What do we want the next steps to be? The next item on the agenda is to determine the next steps after hearing the task force committee. So, thoughts from you all?
Well, data doesn't lie, so I think it would be my recommendation to have Mr. TG reach out to neighboring districts and see who wants to have a conversation and potentially partner with us in whatever fashion a sports co-op that may or may not ultimately lead to a consolidation. So I think first we gauge the interest from our neighbors, and then once we get that information, we start diving deeper into more data so we can publish more facts based on what that would look like, depending upon who would like to partner with us. And then obviously the task force would continue to meet, and we would probably set up committees to meet with the neighboring districts who would like to partner with us in the future.
I agree with that. I think at least, exploring if there's interest and from whom and what that would look like. is important. I know that I spoke to some that had filled out the survey, and they said, was it intentionally really vague? Like, what does that mean for X, Y, or Z? And I said, no, it was very much so left intentionally vague. We want to, kind of open up the door and see kind of, before we start talking with neighboring towns and things like that, to make sure that the public is interested in doing so. Any other comments or discussion? No? Great. So I will require a motion to approve the next steps determined by the school board after hearing the recommendation of the task force committee, which is to continue to have the task force meet and to have Mr. TG reach out to neighboring communities to engage interest and potential sports co-ops or consolidations. Do I have a motion?
So,
Motion by Cody, second by Kyle. All in favor say aye.
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 Emily, if that's okay with the board, I'll draft a formal letter. I can collaborate with Emily on that and make sure that states what the board would like it to state, and I think that'd be a nice way of formally inviting neighboring districts to the table for discussion.
Sure. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That's okay. Next, we'll receive an update by the Facilities and Grounds Committee.
Mr. TG and I have been continuing to meet with GLG about the multi-purpose dressing room addition. Currently, the architect's in the design development phase, so brought some numbers passed up to all the board members tonight. Just want to take a quick spin through and a floor plan. So today we received the first cost estimate from GLG on the project. Obviously, this is very preliminary because we've provided some renderings before to show what the outside might look like, but this is, we've become set on a floor plan, which fits the space of the area we have to use, allows us to utilize existing doorways out of the auxiliary gym, and also from a mechanicals perspective, capture some of the plumbing adjacent to the locker room. So it's probably a pretty simplified design, but with the goal in mind that we want to maximize the amount of square footage we're able to get for what we can afford within our budget. So the budget summary sheet outlines the big picture, detailed breakdown by division. This is a preliminary budget, so I have not seen more information than this. I have not dug deep into running a cost comparison, but I don't see any alarming things here. A couple of things of note. Included in that general construction cost would be everything that the general contractor would have to provide, so that's all of his insurance and soft costs, so that's not a separate line item. The site improvements line item for $25,000, that is basically an allowance if them saying that we want to do some upscale landscaping, because what we've discussed with them is in the base bid would be not sod, but tilled seeded ground, so no trees, no plantings, no benches outside of things, so that's what would be included in that allowance that they've set aside. The contingency right now is at 15%, which is high, but that's because of where they're at in their drawings right now, what stage the drawing's at. Typically, a project of this size, when it was voted bid, should probably be carrying between 3 and 4% for contingency for unforeseens. So that number obviously goes down by a third or more. And soft costs, we know what our professional fees are, because GLG was hired at 6.5%, so that's the known entity. A lot of these items we have already been able to take care of because of some existing information we had. We did not have to pay for a site survey. We used the geotechnical report that the district already had and already paid for previously. Don't foresee any need for any abatement of asbestos or any hazardous material based on the age of the structure we're tying onto. Temporary heat will be in the contract. We will be paying for testing and special inspections directly, so we don't have to pay the markup from the architect on that. I would anticipate that to be in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. So that number quickly becomes closer to $100,000 to $125,000. So based on some real quick math I did, as of right now, I would say I would feel comfortable with these numbers being safe, saying that our total project cost is going to be around $1,350,000. When we get deeper into design and look at some of the features inside the building, that may go up or down, but these are pretty safe numbers now. JLG will be providing a second cost estimate for us to review based on the level of drawings when we get into construction documents. I guess it would be my recommendation to the board to, obviously if you have any questions, but at this time, I feel comfortable with GLG proceeding as they are to move into construction documents and ultimately complete the project. If we would want to cut any money on the budget, we've simplified this so much, we're probably looking at cutting square footage out of the wrestling space itself. Which then, mat space though, correct? Yeah, it's based on what it's, on the mat
based on what
sizes.
he-
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know what the elevation drop is from existing? And I just see the two ramps here, so obviously there's pretty big.
There's not, this is gonna be, right up here, this is gonna be more gradual than that. That would mean we're looking at 2 feet there and 3 feet on this, on the north side.
Okay.
And some of the bid alternates that I've identified by bringing that back to, we're staying out of the heated sidewalk now.
Sure.
We wanted to have an alternative bid, so if we wanted to hook the ramps in, if we end up having enough money, we can and identify that right on the front end.
Okay.
The windows would be something similar to match what's on the existing building. I don't believe we're gonna be able to get glass block, and it's a potential code problem too now, but something, some form of aluminum glazing that will try to mimic that look and make it a pattern. The thin brick is simply a finish option on the precast panels, and then they throw in a lot of for extra wrestling lights.
Apparently the glass block is not in style anymore. I got a chuckle from JLG when I recommended that we carry that from the existing building over. Like, I don't think we've seen glass block for at least 5 years. So, but we'll maybe have to go with something else. But, so really, where we're at, thank you, Doug, for that report, and where we're at, the facilities grounds committee is recommending moving forward. Any discussion, any other board members that would have difficulties with that? You can see the numbers that, that 1.5 that Doug said, we're looking at the real, in my experiences, Doug's got far more experience than I do with this, but in the building projects that I've been part of, they want it to be accurate, but they also want it to be safe. So I think this is definitely a safe number, and I think I agree with Doug that we're looking at closer to that 1.3, and then we're at the mercy of the bids. And when we get to that process, the bids, if they come in under budget, then we're back at that ideal budget of that we talked about, the 1.2. There's a chance that it could be over budget too, but it's just what we gotta go into, and we're kind of at mercy of where the bids are gonna come in when we get to that part of the process. So, any objections to the facilities grounds committee's recommendation moving forward?
I feel comfortable moving forward.
One thing I did mention is when we finally settled on the contents of the contract, we had them provide an hourly rate for services. So anticipating if bids came in really good or there's more room in the budget, we can simply hire them on an hourly basis at a set amount to explore other things, whether it be something to do with the baseball complex or equipment storage or anything else on campus.
Great.
I would like to publicly thank Doug for this. He's put in a lot of time on this, and it's really valuable to have a board member that has this experience. So thank you, Doug.
All right, next item on the agenda, information will be presented about the Good News Club after-school program for elementary school students.
I have 2 documents here that each person can take one. How's everyone doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just want to say I'm Ken Hofer. I was born and raised in Freeman here. So, and then, let's see, I have a son that goes to the public elementary school here. So anyway, thanks so much, the superintendent, for letting me come here today, and also to your board members here. I really appreciate you letting me come here and tell you about the Good News Club. About me is, I've been with CEF, or Child Evangelism Fellowship. I'm the local director. I was in Sioux Falls. I started in 2001. So next month will be 20 years I've been in Child Evangelism Fellowship as a local director. I was the local director there in Sioux Falls for about 15 years, and then in December of 2016, my wife and I decided to move back to Freeman. So I'm the local director over the Lewis and Clark area, which is the southeastern part of South Dakota. So what I'm going here to the school board about is getting permission to hold the Good News Club on the school grounds at the public elementary school. And also to, once we have that permission, then also to the parent permission slips to be distributed in the school. So you ask, what is the Good News Club? The Good News Club is an after-school club for elementary age kids. So I'm targeting elementary age kids. And anyway, what happens is at the Good News Club, it's a Christian club. During the Good News Club, the children are, like I say, it's once a week, and usually we start them in October, but sometimes we start them in November, and they just meet once a week for 1 hour. So it's after school, so once school is done, they go right into the assigned room where we have it in the elementary school. So the Good News Club, like I say, what happens at the Good News Club, the children learn a Bible story, they have creative activities, they hear a missionary story, they hear Christian songs, and also too, they are taught a memory verse. So anyway, that's what happens at the Good News Club. And you ask, well, who teaches the Good News Club? The volunteers are people that come to me, or I have connections with, that are interested in ministering to the boys and girls. And anyway, so the teachers are volunteered, and sometimes I teach them. But what happens is we always screen our teachers, and also too, I train them and coach them and everything. So they're very well connected with me. And like I say, we do those background screens. My ministry is the head office in the state is in Huron, South Dakota. And then also to our international office is down in Warrenton, Missouri. We're in all 50 states and over 200 countries. So the Good News Club, like I say, meets after school. And then also too, you ask, well, where do we have these Good News Clubs? Already in South Dakota, we have one in Bridgewater, Emory. The one that I'm teaching at Bridgewater, Emory starts next week. We have them in Huron Public School District, Brandon Valley, Sioux Falls, Marion, and one is already being started in Pierre, and then also too, we have them in Rapid City. Now this is very key and very important. If you look at the parent permission slip that I handed out to you, no kid will get into the Good News Club without their parent or legal guardian to sign that. So that is an absolute. So that just keeps us out of, as you would say, misunderstandings. So anyway, but it's just, if we get permission to have the Good News Club right here in the public elementary school, then I would ask for permission for these parent permission slips to be distributed. Parents would get them to announce the Good News Club, and then also too, the kid brings the parent permission slip signed by the legal guardian. So again, this is absolute that no kid can get in the Good News Club unless they have their parent or legal guardian to sign this and everything. So let's see. Also too, you asked what is Child Evangelism Fellowship? It's a Christian organization, kind of like Campus Crusade or like Fellowship of Christian Athletes, only we minister to the boys and girls or children. And you ask, well, how can you have a Christian club in the school? Well, yes, it is legal because in 2001, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Good News Clubs can meet in the public schools after hours on same terms as other community groups. So if Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts are using the facilities, we have the legal right to use the facility too. So that is, some people don't know about that case. So anyway, for your record and everything. so. Again, also too, I talked to some pastors, I built relationships with the pastors, area pastors that I know, and they're in supportive of it. Steve Russo and Tom Brown, Shane from Bethany Mennonite Church and everything. So anyway, and like I say, we're in hundreds of schools across the nation with the Good News Club. So anyway, tell you the last document, and to wrap it up and everything, the last document that I have is a written testimony by Principal Kim Alman over in Bridgewater Emory. And she goes ahead and she is very, very supportive of the Good News Club and the impact it is making on the children. So, and just to sum it up in the last paragraph, it says the Good News Club gives the students a safe place where they can become more complete in their faith and successful and positive peers and fellow students and families. So it does have an impact on the kids. She said that they're very well behaved, they're very kind to other students, and it does have an impact. So anyway, like I say, once a week for 1 hour, and that's what I'm looking for. So 2 things, again, permission to have the Good News Club here at the Freeman Public Elementary School, and then also permission then to have those parent permission slips to get out and everything. So I think that all pretty well sums it up and everything. So anyway, any questions or?
Any questions? I don't have a question, I guess. That was a great overview, thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet, you bet.
Personally, I think this is a great idea. I think it offers something different. I know, as a parent of a child that's, in early elementary compared to middle school, he feels left out that he doesn't have any after-school activities to go to
Yeah.
and whatnot, with different practices and whatnot going on. So, and it sounds like it's been very well received and kind of, filling a unique need in the Bridgewater Emory area as well. So, I think this would be a great addition to some services that we can offer here. And very convenient for parents as well that are able to, their kids are already at school, really only need to worry about pickup, they don't need to drop them off or anything like that, so I like that as well.
Sure. I guess I would like some time to research the organization a bit before we make decisions, just do our due diligence on that end.
Okay.
So we're probably gonna have to put it off until next meeting before we make a yes or no answer.
Okay, that's reasonable. We did have on the agenda to approve the request, but we'll go ahead and push that to next month's agenda.
Perfect.
Is that everyone else okay with that? Okay,
Okay.
thank you so
And then-
much.
So the next meeting would be next month, and then I'll hear from you after.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, thanks again so much for letting me come here, I really highly appreciate it, I wish you all a very successful and year with the school. Thank you so much, Superintendent, glad you're here in Freeman and everything, so, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to skip agenda item number 5 and move that to next month.
Do we still have an FCA program?
Not really.
That's not.
We have any other after-school programs currently going on, as far as things like that?
Outside of our
Any
school,
clubs?
not that I'm aware of.
Any other discussion? Great. All right, we'll move on in the agenda. We'll require a motion for the approval of the 2021-2022 Teacher Master Agreement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Slade,
I'll second
second by Kyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
it.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7 will require a motion for the approval of the 2021-2022 Facilities Use Agreement with Growing Dreams. Any discussion or questions about that?
I have presented this to Growing Dreams, and they got back to me, because they thought it looked good, we're okay with that, and just has all the terms that we've used in the past, so basically it's changing the date, it's rolling over into this next year.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Slade, second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda will require a motion to approve the contract to use Aptigee as the district website provider. Do I have a motion?
We'd have some information on this too, if we'd like
Sure,
to receive the
absolutely.
information prior to the motion. Seth is here to talk to us about Aptigee. Also in your packet, I did put together what Aptigee shared with us. We've had, while Seth is working his way over, we have had a couple meetings as an administrative team, and did a deep dive into Aptigee and the things that it has to offer. I'll let Seth elaborate more on what the situation that we're currently in with our current website and the changes that are happening there, so I'll turn it over to him. I will say, while he's still looking up here to page 4, I can talk about the budget before we get into that. So the scheduled pricing on page 4, you can see at the top, there's a few one-time fees, so that would be the setup fees. There's a $9,500 one-time fee. The next one is a discount, so the small school pricing, we meet that category, so it's $3,000 less. The early kickoff incentive, that would be a $2,500 reimbursement. If you start this mid-year, which works out pretty nice for us, as Seth's going to elaborate on, our website company is been bought out anyways. So that would be a $2,500 savings if we went with them ahead of time, which would ultimately pay the rest of the time and some for what we would be paying for the additional website company. So it wouldn't be, even though we're starting early, we're not paying any additional costs, if that makes sense. And then the next one, the Thrill Share Annual, that would be this $6,125, which would be our annual cost each year moving forward. And then as you can see on that next page, then we have the July 2022 stays at that $6,125. And then if renewed, again, if we continue to stay with them and are satisfied, July 2023 would be the still staying at that $6,125. Turn over, Seth.
Thank you, Mr. TG. The reason we started looking at this initially, I think one of you guys was at a meeting that Aptigee approached you and gave you some literature, and then Jake came to me about it after that. I'll be honest, initially my interest level was somewhere in the 2 range because you have what you're familiar with and comfortable with, and it's working fine. After that, or shortly around the same time, I found out that we were currently with School Point and they were purchased by Final Site, which is a different provider. Kind of looks about like the same thing. I sat through a few meetings with them. There wasn't much change in terms of the back-end structure, what we do as far as updating the website. They had an app available. We currently do have an app, which I don't know that a lot of district members know about. It's not particularly glamorous, it's not branded. It has some basic info and it'll send you a push alert, which is nice, but there's not much to it beyond that. Our current contract with School Point, we're paying about $3,000 a year. And we got a quote from Final Site, the new company, and it looked like progressively increasing costs over the next 3-year contract to the tune of $300 a year. So our final cost would be $3,900 after the 3 years. And the primary difference I saw between the two, once I started looking at Aptigee, we sat through their presentation, is that theirs is a all-encompassing package. All of their services they offer is right there in the initial cost. School Point structure, after a little more investigation with them, $3,600 for the next couple of years is the base, and then if you want to add this component, it's another $600, and this component, it's another $200. And we get pretty close to where we would be with an annual cost on Aptigee. The other real big piece I saw with Aptigee, and this, I brought up a couple sites. Menno actually switched to them recently, so this is their current webpage here. And then I have the Harrisburg one up. Let me quick flip to this and show you. I actually took the time and went around all the district websites. You probably can't read into that, but. And I looked at who their current providers are. And if you see at the top there, that's the list of schools in South Dakota and the nearby states that are on Aptigee, which is quite a big list. And then the next most common one is actually the one we're on now, School Point Final Site. There's only us and 4 other districts on it. and then cyber school, and then on down the list was a few schools that were 1, 2, 3 schools on it, and a lot of them are just single schools on a site. And at the bottom was a list of all the schools that are either in-house, they have somebody local in town that does it, and those, you know, in Sioux Falls and those districts, I don't really know who the provider is, you can't really tell, but it seemed like in our area, a lot of schools are moving towards Apogee, which in and of itself isn't a reason necessarily for us to do it, but it's probably a reason that would tell us a lot of the schools are pretty happy with what they get from them and are impressed with their offerings. So the thing that really differentiates them, I think, from what we currently have is this live feed here. And I'll just bring it up on a full screen view. The nice thing about this live feed, and what I really like about it, is it doesn't require 100% of me doing all the posts, which I don't mind doing, but it's a fair amount of work, and I probably don't post nearly as much stuff as I could just because of time constraints. This thrill share piece is a all one-stop posting for any social media site we decide to tie to the site, as well as a live feed on the actual website itself. And it offers the ability to do a direct communication right out of that through the phone or through email. And you can do it from your laptop, you can do it from a mobile device, any of those devices. So if Jake's wanting to put an announcement out, he can pull out his phone, type something in there quick, click a button, post it to Facebook, post it to Twitter, post it to the live feed on the school site, and send out a call to everybody in the district with that info in one click, basically. And when I questioned Final Site about some similar option, there wasn't really a thing. It just didn't exist for most of these other providers. When we went with School Point, this would be 4 years ago, 5 years ago almost, we evaluated them and Blackboard and a couple other sites that were about the only ones out there at the time. And like I said, there hasn't been much change from when we started to where we are now with them. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of forward-thinking movement in terms of development of their site. And it just seems like this is sort of built on a different platform, the way it works, and it's a lot more user-friendly. So in addition to the fact that Jake or I could do that, we actually could set up approvers in each building, so like Katie and Shane maybe, and anybody then that we decide to make a content poster can submit a, you know, they go to the cross-country coach, goes in the meet, takes a few pictures, types a little bio or summary, send it through to Katie, she'll approve it, and boom, it's posted on the live feed. You see a lot of updates. This comes right from the coach. So it gives everybody in the district a chance to submit content. And it just, like I said, right now, I'll post whatever people send me, but it doesn't happen as much as I'd like to see. And I think the big thing too with this is it's very heavily tied to social media, which, like it or not, is where most people are getting their content nowadays. So the ability to be able to cross-post to Twitter, Facebook, and live stream all at once makes it really, I think you're gonna reach a lot more. So cost-wise, I'd say at the end of the day, it's gonna be more, but not significantly more than what we're gonna pay with the new contract with Final Site. And I think it'll be a lot more than what we have there.
One more cost savings that we'll have as well is currently we do our message system through Infinite Campus, and that's an add-on for Infinite Campus. This is so much simpler, where this is right in the app. I can type up the message, you know, click the record message, and it's right there at the same screen. Where right now, if I use Infinite Campus, I gotta go into Infinite Campus, click on Messenger, put a copy. I usually type it up in Word, copy and paste the email that's gonna go out to parents into there, and then click on Message, and that gives me a phone number that I can call. And then when I call, it records it, and I hit pound, it saves it, then I gotta download it back to my computer, save it in my documents, and then upload it back into Infinite Campus. So it's a full circle of steps where this is so much simpler of just clicking that record button. It records it right through my laptop or my device, and my handheld device, and it's very simple.
Another thing I'll add too is at the beginning of the school year when I met with student council, the one thing they asked me was, how can we as students create an Instagram account for our school and promote our district? And I didn't know the answer to that. Canastota has this, and so just like Seth's saying, we can have approvers, we can actually, our student council rep, our FFA president can also be on there And when they go places, they can do that too, and then I would just approve it. And so that was one thing that they wanted, because they said, you know, the Canastota kids have some really awesome pictures that they're sharing on Instagram. How do we do that? So I'm like, well, there's gotta be a way, you don't just let kids post to your school page, but then this is how it is. So, that was an interest of the students at the beginning of the year as well, so.
Yeah, I think Marion is moving to this too, and they're in the design phase, so they haven't switched over yet, but yeah, Marion, Menlo, Canastota, lots of other schools around us are all kind of on the same platform, so.
Just after G happen.
That's what I was just
Yeah,
going to
so
ask, cause I just.
that cost in the cost itemized thing is, it'll be a branded app that has our logo and all of that. And the way their site's designed, it basically will be the same content on the mobile site as on the app. And the way it is right now, it's sort of a stripped down version, and it's a little convoluted in how you see the stuff. But this, yeah, it'll basically be the same view, just sort of consolidated into an app-sized palette. But yeah, the branded app comes, like I said, it's all part of that one cost, so all of it's in there, and that does include the branded app that they designed for us. And the other part of that cost too, that initial cost, they basically migrate all the content from our current site to their site. And then whatever we wanna take or leave, they'll, you know, kind of adjust as needed, so. For me, that's nice, because I don't have to re-enter all the sports schedules.
I really like the look of that. I think, it sounds like it's a lot more intuitive, probably easier to find, and I agree with you. I mean, as someone who this summer previously had to, you know, post everything to her son's dog walking business Facebook page, I would have wished that there would have been more people that had access, because you're right, many hands make light work. So I like the idea of even involving students and things like that, but then having that fail-safe of requiring approval before posting. And it would be nice to have some real-time updates too from, you know, cross-country state, you know, that's happening this weekend or things like that, to be up to date on that, so.
Yeah, one of these feeds, they had that, they were like live streaming the score of the football game on the live feed, I think it was on Menlo's.
Oh, that's great.
So I mean,
That too.
people could just tune in the live feed and then just see what's happening.
Sure.
I will say, that does sound interesting, like, I think I've been on our current site maybe like twice, probably by accident once. But like, to be able to, I appreciate what you do, so I don't. But to be able to stay up to date on more stuff, like live stuff, I think that would be cool.
Well, like I said, there's honestly probably a lot of people like you that have never been on the site and would probably be more likely to get that info if we cross-post to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Right.
Right.
Would we still utilize the Infinite Campus in conjunction with this, or they have a
Yeah.
different platform?
So we keep we're kind of pretty heavily tied to Infinite Campus because that's what the state provides to us. So we have to keep that for our student information system. This would pull a nightly dump of data for the distribution of messages. So we still pull the information for phone numbers and emails from Infinite Campus. All of our standard stuff would be still Infinite Campus, and that would, you know, so people still have parent portal account and all that. I don't believe currently they offer a student information system, and like I said, even if they did, all of our state reporting, all of our funding, all that is tied to that Infinite Campus, and we kind of have to sit with that for the state.
So far in the times that we've met with them, there's been one, outside of the price decrease, there's been one negative thing, and that's with, ties into the positive with the, the app, it opens up and you can, click on food services and see what the breakfast and lunch is for the day. It's one screen, that's the advantage of the app. Whereas with any other app, usually it just goes right back to the web and you get a calendar and you gotta blow it up. But to put it in so it can be read in the app, our food services will have to type in each individual day, and it doesn't generate that calendar that we also send out. So that would be the one negative, is that we'd have to do the calendar still for food services, and then also type it into the app, or type it into the website. But I think that's probably, if that's the only negative that we've discovered so far outside of the increased price, that's pretty good.
And Mr. TG did volunteer to type in food service.
Well, there's all that extra time you're saving on the downloading and, yeah, that makes sense.
Volunteer.
Great,
Any other questions you have for me?
Questions, discussion?
I would make a motion then to,
Wonderful. Motion to approve the contract to use Apogee as the district website provider. Motion by Kyle. Second
Slade.
by Slade. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda will require a motion to approve payment for the Pixel at School broadcast program.
Seth has had more to do with this one, so I'm glad he's at the podium, and, the invoice is in your packet for the Pixelat system. My understanding, and Seth can elaborate more on this, is that this has been a price that's been at the expense of our parents. During the COVID times, we decided to, since there was, not the opportunity for spectators, or as many spectators, or some that maybe didn't feel safe coming in, that we paid that cost. This invoice is for, what we paid in the past. What we need from the board is to decide if we want to continue to go that direction and pay, that fee, or if we want to go back to what it was pre-COVID time and have that, financial responsibility fall on the parents. Seth, anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna show you the cost on the, if we do that, it's $3,000 you see in yours now. If we do that, what that gets us is all of our home events are free to our patrons and actually anybody, as long as you create one of the free accounts on NFHS. So if you have a free account, you can log in, you can see all of our home events. We do have a Pixelat camera at the football field that, now that I've hung it 4 or 5 times, I think it works. And, caught half of our 2 football games this year, so that was good. But it'll be those and then everything that's in the main gym, and eventually if we decide to get one in the elementary gym. So all of the events in the district will be free. Away games, you would still need a subscription to see, unless that school also pays the subscription. Here's what the cost looks like if we don't do that. $70 a year is an annual pass, and that lets you see any games in the country on the network. So like sometimes I'll tune in and watch water polo in California or something. Or it's $11 a month.
Did I miss on the Apogee presentation, weren't live streams part of that website?
Not of our sporting events. I don't know.
Can we just not call them sporting events?
Well, so a couple things with that. We're under, I think, a contract with NFHS already for a couple of years at least more on the gym camera from the initial contract when we bought that. And I don't recall seeing anything about that. Maybe I missed something too. I'd have to look a little deeper in that, but I don't think they have an option. You could probably go live on the live stream and film something, but I don't think it's really set up to do streaming live events, and timing and doing all that other stuff. You got walking around with a camera or a phone and turning it on. Versus these are really nice because they track, 2 fixed cameras and then digitally stitch the image and track the motion. So it's a much more professional looking image of the games.
Do we have any idea how many people have been logging on to the NHS network to watch certain games? Does it show, 32 people logged in, 84 people logged in? Are there only 2 people logging in? Do we know how much use it's gotten over the last year?
Anecdotally only. I've talked to a lot of people that watch them, and generally speaking, I have all kinds of people that ask me about it if I forget to put one up occasionally. And hard numbers, I don't have any of that for you, and I'm sure I can get them from somewhere, but I haven't looked for those. Myself, I have an actual paid subscription too, just because, and I know a couple other patrons do, probably because they signed up in an earlier year and haven't canceled it off their credit card and just annually renews. But I know a number of people I talk to that do use and appreciate it, but.
And I would say, if somebody is coming to play here, the visiting school always wants to know, what's the streaming? How are our people gonna be able to watch the game in Freeman?
Sure.
Pay your $5 and get in the gym, that's how we're seeing.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say
Think how much revenue we're losing with the live stream.
Well, a lot of the audience for this too is actually grandma and grandpa in Arizona,
Right.
grandma and grandpa in Colorado. I mean, there's a lot of out-of-state people.
Well, if
that
they're rich enough to
actually
live in Arizona, they pay the $10.99 a month. No, I'm actually okay with having it as a school provided service. I'm just joking.
I agree, I think it's a nice service and also allows everyone, whether or not that $11 a month, is there or not, it's a nice service, I think, to provide to everyone.
One other thing, the Salem Mennonite home, I think they take advantage of that too. And
Sure.
I talked to Charlie a couple times, I don't know if he's actually got it set up where they can stream it on their TVs in their common area, but
Nice.
I know they talked about it, and I think they do, I have to follow up with them, I know.
That's really nice.
That's something they appreciate probably too.
Anybody opposed to having it as a school provided service? Let's move ahead then.
Right. I require a motion to approve payment for the Pixel School Broadcast Program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody,
Kyle.
second by Kyle. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, an update will be provided by the Policy Review Committee. That's Kyle and I. Yay, more listening to my voice. So Kyle and I met with Mr. Teachy, and we've reviewed some policies that you can see there below that are for the first reading. We, for the time being, kind of prioritized those that were a little bit more time sensitive, such as those for alternative instruction, as well as those for medical cannabis. Now, for the medical cannabis, that also ties into alcohol and substance, obviously, so it affect, kind of has that downstream effect where it affects those as well, so that's why those are also looped in there. If you've ever been on the ASBSD website, they do have a policies option for you to go and look at, recommended policies and things like that to kind of see what's out there. And it's organized by letter, as you can see, the first letter for each kind of general section. So our thought moving forward for the Policy Review Committee was to try and tackle kind of one section each month. And that should get us up to date in about a year, actually, because there's 12 different sections. But we thought, certainly, if there's something time sensitive, we come across something where we say, oh my gosh, that's outdated, or we have this kind of, situation in which we think this needs to be adjusted, certainly then we can roll that into whatever we're looking at that following month as well. But Kyle and I read through them as well, and didn't have any red flags looking at those. Those were all linked to you to read in case of insomnia. And other than that, any questions? Kyle, what did I miss?
Nothing, I think you get it all.
Okay.
An advantage of the ASBSD does come out with policy alerts. So if we do continue to work towards adopting the policies they have in place, they'll send out the alert for those policies. So after this year, the year is gonna take a lot of work to get all that updated. But then once those alerts come out, it should be few and far between for those meetings that the policy committee would have to have. We just have to get together and discuss what those policy alerts were and then bring that to the board.
When I read through them earlier when Jake's on the back, the only question I had was just some verbiage. I want to make sure that the alcohol and drug policy cannot negate our current training rules policy. I think that's more just a language thing within that policy.
Yes, I agree with you. I think probably just to be really very clear, perhaps it is worthwhile either adding verbiage that, for, students participating in extracurricular activities, please see section X policy Y, which outlines training rules or something to that nature, just to make sure that it's clear, if they're training for a specific extracurricular activity versus not. So, yep, I think it's worthwhile adding verbiage to say, reference this in case of this. Because right now we do have a separate training policy in place, and so that's something that we can absolutely look at next month too, when we meet, and make sure that that's up to kind of snuff as well. Okay, moving right along. Any other comments or discussion? The policy, any other policies? No? Okay, and this is just the first reading for those, so certainly we'll look at those again the following month. All right, we'll require a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the gym weight room policy that we discussed at last month's meeting as well.
That is included in your packet. The only adjustment I made to it is I put the letterhead at the top that identifies what the policy number is. That's the flyer's logo.
motion by Doug.
One second, and I just happened, I just caught this, and I don't know, maybe it's just I read it. But we've got in there, we got grade 6 through 8, and we use the gym or slash weight room under adult supervision. Is that saying nobody else younger can use it?
That's a good, I mean, it's a good point. And I personally, I would say anybody under sixth grade, that's, you know, or sixth or eighth grade. Sixth grade, you're saying sixth or eighth grade can use it with adult supervision, and you're asking, does that mean nobody under sixth grade can be in there? Personally, with my athletic background, I think you gotta be really careful with any younger kids in the weight room. If they are, you know, if they are in there, that's potential for.
I would agree with the weight room, but the gym part, I would probably disagree with.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
a good,
don't know
that's a
if
good
I
point.
missed that.
Yeah, that could be, although I would say for those
Because we do
kiddos,
have
they're
a lot-
usually there because there's a coach-sponsored open gym, there's a coach-sponsored practice, which I think does
It's
not.
Like on Sundays, there's a lot of families that come in with a lot
Right.
of young kids, and I think we get rid of that.
Just to clean up the wording, basically.
Yeah,
for
I
opening up.
guess,
Sure.
yeah, not to exclude anybody younger, I mean,
No, I think that's a good.
If you're 7 and
good
you're there
point.
with your dad, that's fine.
right, yeah, I mean, maybe 6th grade can keep the weight room part, and then
Yeah.
just scratch the gym part off, and then
Off of that
everybody's,
sentence, and
and then
then
everybody's
leave it
allowed
for
to
the
use the gym.
rest.
Yeah.
Sure. I agree with that.
Does that make sense?
I do, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, just
I
scratch
think it
out.
does.
Yep, so if we.
Scratch off gym.
Gym.
Mhm.
Scratch off gym and
If you
then.
just scratch
add
out
another-
gym, it completely fixes it.
Yes.
On both, yeah, I guess there's 2 gyms there. Yeah, because that's only relevant for the weight room, so.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then do we need to add language then about the,
Younger than
Yes,
sixth grade,
mhm.
that's what I'm wondering too.
yes.
Could we just change the 6 to K,
Mm-hmm.
K through 8?
I
May
think
use
it's very
the
reasonable. Gym,
gym, and then could we scratch weight room under adult supervision?
right.
I don't even know if I'd put a
Yeah, I don't-
bottom on it, because if somebody comes in with their 4-year-old, like, are you gonna come kick the 4-year-old out? I mean,
If they're there with their 2nd grade.
You know what I
5th grade
mean,
sibling.
right, like-
Yeah, I just say leave that whole thing out.
just all other people, all other youth have to have adult supervision.
Under that certain age group, yeah.
Yeah. Right, like,
So if we scratched that whole first sentence, and if we kept the Freeman, students in grades 9 through 12 may use the gym/weight room without adult supervision with a signed waiver and a current sports physical on file. And then added a sentence that said K through 8 students may use, may use the gym with adult gym.
Right, nobody's gonna be a student though if they're less than kindergarten age.
Yeah, what's.
Yeah,
So I-
why even have that in there?
just all other youth would have to be adult, but you could also, and then I would also leave the 6th or 8th thing with the weight room, that they have to have adult supervision in there.
Sure. Sure, so just add that sentence.
The first one, just add,
So really it can stay as is if we,
Plus the word gym.
less the gym and then add the sentence at the end, all other youth.
Yeah,
must be
everybody.
supervised.
There you go,
Mhm.
perfect.
Good catch.
Any other discussion? Concerns?
Number 5 on the waiver, I acknowledge unanticipated risk which can result in physical or emotional injury.
Mhm.
You can get emotionally injured while lifting weights.
Absolutely.
That's new to me. Who knew?
Keeps me very humble.
I couldn't bench 300, it really hurt my feelings.
Exactly. Every time.
All right, fair enough.
Always very optimistic. Okay, great, we've had a motion by, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start over, okay? We'll require a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the gym weight room policy with the aforementioned changes to number 2 under the general rules for gym and weight room use. Do I have a motion? Motion by Doug,
Second.
second by Cody. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 12, first reading of the following policies: participation of alternative instruction students, alternative instruction students enrolling from alternative instructional and unaccredited schools, administration of medical cannabis to qualifying students, medical cannabis administration plan, administration of medications to students, use of alcohol, drugs, and controlled substances, alcohol, and other drug use by students. So I've kind of already given everyone an update as far as the policy review committee. Doug recommended that we add verbiage to the alcohol, drugs, and controlled substance by students to include kind of the caveat of the training rules. And we can certainly, like I said, look at that policy and add that to next month as well, since it ties into the second reading as well. Any other comments or concerns from anyone in regards to those policies? Great. And like I said, feel free to use them if you have trouble falling asleep. Okay, excellent. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda. We will now go into executive session. We'll require a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Slade. Second by Cody. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In executive session at 8:17 p.m.